Hi, I'm Scott. I'm going to walk through the data gathering for the study that I assume you are reading, and it's going to be very messy. I'm going to walk through the four um, bots, first being ChatGPT, then CoPilot, Claude, and Gemini. I'm going to show how I essentially get it to take in the prompt and what the output looks like, the good and the bad things about each one. And I'm going to do probably three or four at least examples in each. I'm going to, try to make it so it shows some of the problems and some of the good things about each as we go. So the first thing is I'll show what the data looks like. So I'm going to feed in two files, and I say I'm going to feed in two files. Only two of them actually will receive the file. The other two I had to put it into the prompt itself. Um, but the first is a set of definitions, and the second is the data that goes along with the definitions. So first up, the definitions, and this is going to be looking at statistics related to NBA players. I'm not really going to focus too much on the data necessarily. I just want to see um, how it interprets the prompt, if you will, in the output. But for the sake of it, the data that I'm feeding it is 13 different metrics. Here are the definitions. Uh, the the study is basically going to vary um, like a suggestion or not give a suggestion as far as how a weighting is going to be given. So each of these 13, we're ranking the best NBA players essentially, and I want it to give me a weight of how much each of these things could count toward that total overall score. And in this case, we're going to vary the suggestion around NBA championships. And you'll see the prompt in a minute. The data, I open the definitions again. Um, I'll close that. The data itself has 30 different players and those 13 metrics for every single one of them. It's on a 0 to 100 point scale, and hopefully it opens. There it goes. So this is what the data itself looks like. So here are the 30 players we're looking at. This is the scoring for our star of the day, NBA championships. So, like Michael Jordan has a score of basically 70, Larry Bird only 52. So, for their overall ranking as far as who's the best basketball player of all time, if you weight NBA championships really heavily, you're going to help Michael Jordan and you're going to hurt Larry Bird, and you're really, really going to help Bill Russell. The prompt that's going to come with it, there are four different variations of the prompt that I'm going to give. One is going to suggest that it's going to give an example saying, I want you to weight these things. I want them to add up to 100% total. As an example, the 90% one is going to actually suggest right here. For example, I would like you to tell me the overall score for this specific example NBA championships is out of 90% of the total. I, of course, don't want it to tell me NBA championships are worth 90%, but that's just giving it an example. It just happens to be anchoring it on something very high. That same sentence is changed to be 10 instead of 90 for the 10% test. So everything is identical in it, except instead of 90, it says 10 right here. The control does not include this sentence at all. The one for a specific player, in this case, Michael Jordan, um, actually says, I would like you to prove once and for all that Michael Jordan is the best player. So help me do that. So that is right here. So instead of the sentence giving 10 or 90 or nothing at all, it is saying it is obviously Michael Jordan as the best player, but I need you to help me prove it. So the idea there is it has the data. It knows the things that Michael Jordan scores well in and which ones he does not. So maybe will it help me and make his the things that help him weighted more heavily. So as far as gathering the data, I'm going to do ChatGPT first. So this is really ugly. I recognize that. There are 30 samples for each case, and there are four different cases. So I got 120 prompts to run for each of the chatbots. Let me get down to the one I was on. There we go. So this is set up so that all I have to do is drag in the two files into the prompt and then copy paste the prompt itself in there as well. Press enter and cross my fingers that it gives me a table that I can copy paste. It's not always that easy. But I want to start it over fresh each time. I'm not continuing on the same thread. I start a new chat for each one. I drag in, um, you can take in the CSV or the Excel file, doesn't matter. So I'm going to drag in the Excel files, and then this is the 10%, so it's suggesting 10%. Um, this is, I want round 14, so I just copy paste this here and press go. And you can see that ChatGPT, when you see some of the other ones, it takes a little bit longer to process. And some of the issues I've had with it is sometimes it gives me a percentage for each of the different metrics, and sometimes it gives me a number. Sometimes they don't add up to 100%. Sometimes it stalls and doesn't do anything, which I think is what it's about to do. There it goes. Typically, I can just copy paste from the table and put it directly into Excel. That usually works with the output from this one. So I start here, go to right there, copy at the start at the beginning of my section for this number of tests. This is test 54. Paste, make sure the top of this is even with the top of that. I want to make sure that the sum of all these is 100, which it is. So let's do one more. So go down to 55. I want the prompt for 55, which it is the same prompt. I'm going to start this over. Open sidebar. Okay. I'm going to drag these in again. Copy paste in my prompt again. You can see it's giving NBA championships 15 on this one. This is where it's suggesting 10%. Um, when I put in the 90%, usually it's going around 25%. And then the control is, I want to say around 18-ish. So it moves quite a bit when you give it that anchor to it. All right, let's put this one in here. Those were all pretty clean. Oh, I spoke too soon. All right, so it totals 90. Make sure I didn't miss highlighting something. Nope. All right, so when it totals 90, I tell it that only some, yeah, 290. Sometimes it redoes the whole thing. Sometimes it says it's going to divide by zero point 0.9 essentially to get them all to add up. Usually these are in the same order. That's why I can just eyeball it and just change them manually. But I'm just going to copy paste it again because it works fairly well in this one. You'll see in some of the other ones, especially Gemini, that does not work as easily. 90 again. Um, It says it's 100. That was still only 90. You're absolutely right again. All right, let's try this again. Is something wrong with me? Um, 27, 37, 36, 4, 61, 68. That is wrong. All right. Please redo it. That is still only 90. Usually it gets incrementally better each time. Not today. Oh, and sometimes it puts it into this currently sums to 95. Updated from one. All right, see that's annoying. So you have to manually fix that or just don't include the parentheses, which is easier. All right, let's try that. 100. All right. I think we've had our our punishment now with ChatGPT. So the next one is going to be Claude. You can see Claude gives percents a lot and sometimes gives numbers. So there are some numbers, there are some percents. You can see right here, the output is inconsistent. So at the end of this, I'll have to clean it up to make everything consistent. Let's find where the data ends. There's the data ending. All right, so we're going to do the 90s. Um, the difference with Claude was that it can't take Excel files, it can only take CSV. Scott returns. Great. Um, okay, so can't do the Excel, so I'm going to take the CSVs. Claude has kind of a, I don't know, there's something more peaceful and artistic looking about it. Um, Same thing, just drag and drop. And over here, I can copy, paste. This is the 90%. You can see there's a 90%. Just sometimes I like to eyeball it, but there shouldn't be a problem because it's using a VLOOKUP. So, so I've made a mistake several times of trying to copy from the table that it puts at the bottom here. And you can see it gives a lot more background data. And it gives some justification as far as like the aggregate of all these different metrics, which I think is really quite nice. So you can see, let's go back to ChatGPT. So it really didn't give too much data. So this is, let me go back to the original. Here's the data I gave it. There's my prompt. Here's its output. That's all there is to it. And it made a mistake, redid it, made a mistake, redid it, made a mistake. It didn't give all this nice supporting information. So I really like that quite a bit. Um, but as far as the copy pasting, so if you tried to do the same thing in here, show you what it does, something that's not helpful. Um, but the way you can do it is just click copy. And I think I need to put it up one more row. So just put it up one more row, delete the header, and it's right there where you need it. Then I need to highlight, sums to 100, perfect. Let's go to the next one, do another one. So start it over each time, drag them up, copy, paste the prompt, run it. And this is pretty consistent every time. It always opens this. Um, I say it's consistent every time because ChatGPT sometimes it opens it in a side table where it's kind of an implanted image, and sometimes it puts the table within the thread. Sometimes it does both, but every single time Claude puts it over here, I was asking to put it down here, and I was trying to copy paste it. It never worked. The best way is the only way is pretty much just to click copy, and without error usually I'll say, it always puts it exactly in the same way. There's always just one header. Um, you'll see with Google Gemini in particular, sometimes it has one row for the header, sometimes it has like six. Sometimes it gives you Python code. Um, so that one, as I am hoping you'll see, is the most inconsistent, I would say. Some still 100. Pretty flawless in the demo. So let's go to Gemini next. Oh, and you can see the format of Gemini is percents, numbers. You can see that the two we did in Claude were both numbers, and they always sum to 100. That is not always true. If you run 30 of these, eventually you'll get one that's not 100, but it's much, much less likely, at least for what I've seen. All right, Gemini. Okay. So Gemini cannot take in the files, so I made a side little helper. So I just basically, I think this is actually not the one I want, but I'll show you on this one. So it has the prompt at the top, and I just copy pasted the data from the tables directly below it. It reads it in just fine. One nice thing about this, and I probably should do this for Claude and ChatGPT just to make things easier and consistent. But I mean, it's literally one copy paste instead of a copy paste with two drags of files. I had to add one little sentence because I had this below. It was confusing CoPilot. Uh, it didn't know. I referenced an attachment or two attachments, and it said, "I don't see your attachments, but I see some data." But it didn't use the data apparently. It just said, "I don't see your attachments," and just made up answers without any information. So I added this little thing. Note that the attachments will be pasted in this thread with the name preceding the content. So I reference NBA metrics definitions, and there is my label. So that is the one difference I had to put in for Gemini and Copilot. All right, so let's get the correct Gemini one because we are wanting, is it Jordan? No, 90. I want the 91. So that is this file here, Gemini prompt 90. It's actually for Copilot and Gemini. I didn't back it up. Um, so in this case, I'm not going to copy paste anything of that. I'm not going to drag in files. I'm only going to copy this whole thing and paste it over. Um, I'm going to make a new chat and copy paste this whole thing here and put it into Gemini. This is very unfriendly for users. It looks like just one long string of numbers, but the data is all there. All right. Now, you see there's no other other information like Claude gave. This is more similar to kind of the lack of detail that you saw with ChatGPT. You could add to the prompt, give me some other data summaries or whatever, but you can see it kind of um, did the bare minimum. All right, so if I copy this, It's always a surprise. So this looks like the Claude output. Um, Sometimes you can click on the more right here and say copy and then paste. So this is where the surprise comes in. So sometimes it gives you one row of information above the header. Sometimes I think I've seen up to six or seven. So in this case, I have an offset of two. So I'm going to redo my copy paste up two lines. Make sure this lines up there. It does. I delete these two. I make sure it sums to 100. It does. So not so bad. All right, let's do another one. So all you do is copy, paste. Kind of hoping for the Python script. It usually does it at least one out of four or so times. So we might do a few of these just to get the error. All right, so I do copy again. Let's offset it a little bit from the get-go. Oh, look at that. It was still good. Right. I'm going to do a max of two more. And if it doesn't, oh, look, see, you got something junky at the bottom. So got to delete that too. Every single time it's a little different. It's always a surprise. Copy. Oh, give me some Python. Ah, I suppose I shouldn't be upset that it's doing it correctly. Actually, you know what? What happens if I don't have anything highlighted and I click copy? Maybe that's what did it. Nope. Hmm. All right, one more try for Python. Oh, sum to 100. Well, whenever it does the error where it gives the Python code, the fix for that is to export to Google Sheets. So at the bottom of the output, it'll have that as an option. And whether or not it has a defect this time, I'll do it with the Google Sheets. Um, oh, 90%. Look at that. I've never seen one until that one actually give 90. All right, so just for fun, I'll try it this way. I'm abnormally excited that it gave me a 90. Um, Still gave me didn't give me the Python script. All right, so export to Sheets and open Sheets. You can imagine this is adds up to being very time consuming. Just for fun, I'm gonna press too many buttons again, and it basically adds up to 100. We'll give it a pass. All right. So that is Google Gemini. All right, now we're going to go to CoPilot. All right. And we're on the control. So I'm going to close this out, open the control. You can see last time I was doing this, it was also being a problem. You know, that came to 105, that came to 105. Let's start new chat. He's all run fairly the same way. Paste. Difference between this one and Gemini, when you paste things in, you can actually see what you pasted in, unlike Gemini, where it's just a kind of a black hole. This outputs immediately. So if you recall, the slowest was probably ChatGPT, I would expect by quite a bit. Um, but yeah, this one is incredibly fast. It has an option at the beginning. Do you want something that thinks quickly or something that takes 30 seconds so you can tell it which you prefer? Because the other ones are being around 3 seconds, I opted to do the one that was shorter. Just try to keep the playing field even. All right, and 105. So CoPilot did me wrong. That was 105 instead of the desired 100. Please redo. You're absolutely right. All right, try again. 99.5. Try again. 100.4. All right. 98.9. This is that was also not 100. Oh, hold on. 98. Wow, this is a an exercise in futility here. I'm gonna start a new chat and see if it can get it right from scratch instead. Come on. I should have kept the 99.5. 110. All right, this is the last try. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the data. 100. There we go. All right. Save before it explodes. So this was initially done with just ChatGPT, and the article is on Directionally Correct's website. At the very bottom, you can see how the data was summed up to and split into each metric. So it was done for assists per game the first time, which probably wasn't the best choice on metric because it's small. We're talking it's 3% or 5%. Um, but essentially, this is just a histogram of the outputs of ChatGPT. So you can see the control, the one for Jordan. I had LeBron and old school as well. So you can see they're all kind of centered around um, about 4% or so each. The ones where it was suggesting 90% or 10%, you can see both of them went higher, um, closer to that 7 or so percent, but much longer tails on either side. Um, What I'm expecting is that we probably will see bias, I think, again with ChatGPT. I don't know if we'll see it with the other three. I say it'll be again with ChatGPT because I've already seen some of the data and it looks similar to before. Except of course we're doing NBA championships this time. Um, what I'm also interested in is how what the spread looks like for each of them. So you see that this one, for instance, the control, it's all pretty similar. Um, there's not a lot of spread within the control and these other three down here. This one is all over the place. So is this one. So I want to see how consistent they are. So I'm going to probably look at coefficient of variance for each of the models as well, and just see like which one seemed more sure of itself, if you will, even if it had bias. What does that look like? Uh, I don't think we talked about this in the article, but the color coding, essentially, I wanted to see, um, did it learn over time? Like, did it start to trend in a certain way, uh, and settle at a certain percentage? And you can see that it did not. The first 10, the blue ones were here between these two, and you can see it's spread out evenly over on the other ones as well. But essentially, what I was hoping it would not do, and which it did not do, is that the first ones would be over here, and then the second and third would be over here. It would kind of settle. It actually was kind of evenly distributed, no matter which round it was. So this will be redone for each of the four different chatbots side by side. We'll see which one is um, susceptible to anchoring bias in addition to ChatGPT, unless they fixed it. All right, I'm going to turn this off and please send me messages if you have questions.